Everybody, thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about The Expendables 3. And once again, I'm super happy to have my buddy Benny Wan Strikes Back here in this video. If you guys have not already checked out my review for Expendables 1 and Expendables 2 with Benny, definitely go and check those out. We have a playlist over on my channel where you guys can go and check those out. But yeah, let's talk about the third installment in this franchise, this machismo machine, a film franchise that is very, very unique. So if you guys have not watched our reviews for the other ones, these films are essentially an homage to anybody who was a fan of 80s and 90s action stars. These films star people like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Dolph Lundgren, Jason Statham, and so many others. And this film introduces new big-time actors like Mel Gibson and Harrison Ford, who had not been in the franchise already. And before I even get into it, I just would love to see a fourth or fifth film where they bring in more people who didn't get to be a part of this franchise, because there are so many big name actors that I would love to see in this franchise amongst the rest of this crew. It's just a really over-the-top silly franchise, and I have a really good time with it. So similar to the first and second Expendables, these films are really not about the story. The story is just kind of something that gets you to the action, gets you to some badass moments with these characters, get you to the one-liners. It's really about the cast, the machismo, and the over-the-top action. And it's really more about them and their adventure rather than the story. In this movie, we're essentially introduced to Mel Gibson's character, who was somebody who Barney had a history with. Barney's played by Sylvester Stallone. And they had some sort of history. He thought he was dead. He ends up shooting Terry Crews's character, and Terry Crews's character is not in the majority of this film. I think Terry Crews had some other prior engagement, so they kind of had to write him off. But it sets the Expendables out on a mission to destroy Mel Gibson's character. And then that leads us to something that I didn't love so much about this movie, was the fact that Sylvester Stallone's character, Barney, ends up kind of forcing the rest of the Expendables into retirement. He doesn't want any of them to get hurt. He doesn't want any of them to die. So in order for him to go and take out Mel Gibson's character the way he wants to, he ends up kind of forcing them into retirement. They don't want to, and he ends up forming this new group of people with this younger set of people who have different skills. One of them is like a tech guy. You have people like Ronda Rousey in this movie, who does not give a fantastic performance in this movie, but you can tell she was having a good time with this movie and being in this movie. And yeah, I thought that right there out of the gate was something I didn't really love about this film. The fun of these films is having all of these characters together, and so to kind of sideline the main cast and kind of pick up this new cast because you gotta have these new young people kind of felt like a cheap shot at really what this movie could have been, especially since it's the last one that we've gotten. In this film, Harrison Ford plays like the man in the suit who's giving the missions. He kind of has like this demeanor of like, you know, don't fuck with me, you know I can fuck you up, but he never really does anything where he fucks anybody up in the movie. That's probably one big gripe I have with this movie as well, is that Harrison Ford is in the movie, but he doesn't ever get any hand-to-hand combat. He does some badass stuff in a helicopter, but that's about it. It's more of his demeanor that's supposed to be badass, and the fact that we all love Harrison Ford, rather than him actually showing any badass action or fighting in the film, whereas all of the other actors do that. So yeah, like I mentioned, Barney gets this new crew of younger people, and he's essentially going to go off on this mission to take out Mel Gibson's character, and he sidelines the original Expendable characters. And not too long into the movie, this other crew ends up getting captured, and now he has to get back together with the original Expendables to go and save the new, younger Expendables. And then it ends up leading to this really badass action sequence at the end of the film where you have the younger Expendables and the older Expendables fighting together to take out Mel Gibson and all of his goons. And yeah, that's essentially this movie. I think without a doubt, probably it's my least favorite in the franchise, though there are some really, really badass action moments in the film. I really enjoyed a lot of the things that happen in this movie, and I enjoy a lot of the moments between the characters, the chemistry, especially between the original Expendables cast and the actors that you're here to see this movie for. Those moments are all great. There's some great action in this movie. There's some great just machismo moments. But yeah, it's a movie that I feel they kind of just sidelined the Expendables element of the film to have this new cast, and it just doesn't feel like it has the same energy that the first two films have. Now, before I give you my final thoughts on this movie, let's go ahead and hear what Benny Wan Strikes Back had to say about this.
Hey everyone, it's Benny One, and I'm back with Anthony to finish off the Expendables trilogy, everybody. We're here doing Expendables 3 today. Thanks again, bro, for having me do this franchise with you. I appreciate it. I really enjoy doing these reviews with you, man. So, we are talking about Expendables 3 today, everybody. This movie came out in 2014, and this movie sees the Expendables go up against the co-founder of the Expendables, Conrad Stonebanks. If that name doesn't fucking scream 80s action movies, I don't know what the hell does. And this guy is hellbent on destroying Barney and his old crew and his new crew that he brings in. He's just out to destroy the Expendables, basically, everybody. Jeez. So this movie is directed by Patrick Hughes, everybody. And this movie sees Stallone and everybody come back that was in the other two movies, basically, except for Bruce Willis and Chuck Norris. Every single person is back that was in the other two movies. So they're all back, but we have a lot of newcomers, actually. So by the time we hit this third movie, basically any big 80s and 90s action star that was in any big action movies in those two decades has been in this trilogy of movies, like by this third movie, which is a pretty damn phenomenal thing if you think about it. The fact that they could get all these people to appear in these movies and appear in all three of these movies for some of them. So some of the newcomers that we have are Harrison Ford, and we have Mel Gibson, who I will talk about. Wesley Snipes, I will get to too, because man, whoo, this was his first movie after he got out of prison. So, and they do a little play on that actually in the beginning of the movie. It's kind of funny actually. Antonio Banderas, and then we got some new blood in the movie. We got Ronda Rousey, we have Glenn Powell, Victor Ortiz, and Kellen Lutz. So they're the new Expendables. They're the new young blood that gets put in this movie, which that part of the movie, it was okay. Wasn't a huge fan of. It was cool to see them later on in the movie with the older Expendables. So, but that part of the movie, it was all right for me. I would say it was one of the weaker parts of the movie. Was the middle part. So as usual, action, 80s action, cheese, the one-liners. You're not here for a story, people. You're not. That's not what these movies are about. We've talked about them in our previous reviews. These movies are basically, they're a celebration of this cast. You come to watch these movies for the cast. That's what these movies are all about. Because if you're coming here for this story that's going to blow your minds, you're not going to enjoy these movies. So you're just flat out. You're not. The banter between the cast is awesome. There's a scene where freaking Arnold says one of his classic lines towards the end of the movie, "Get to the chopper!" Like when he's just, that kind of stuff is awesome. It is. And I love the banter between everyone in this movie. And I think the two standouts in this movie are Wesley Snipes and Mel Gibson, everyone. Wesley Snipes mainly because it was his first big movie since before he went to prison. And like I said, they made a play on him being in prison, which was hilarious. And Mel Gibson, you guys, he's the big standout for me in this movie because he plays this crazy ass hellbent character from the 80s that is just, he's over the top. Like when he goes crazy in the Lethal Weapon movies, like when he goes his cuckoo parts that he does, that's right in here. There's a scene in the movie where he gets captured. That scene is very intense, and like Mel Gibson shines in that scene. He shines in that scene, you guys. So yeah, the cast is great as usual, but that's what we're here for, is the cast. There is one thing also that I think kind of held this one back a bit, was the PG-13 rating, because I feel like when they did that, they were trying to make it so they could make this movie appeal to a wider audience, mainly a younger audience, which I understand, but at the same time, this movie is full of a bunch of guys that are in their late 50s and 60s, and everyone that watched them when they were in their heyday are a bunch of grown-ass adults, so the movie should have been rated R. I mean, for me, it held it back just a little bit. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, so I'm going to send it back to you, man. Thanks again. I appreciate it, and looking forward to what we do next. And I'll be catching you on Tube laters, because we have spoken.
As usual, a big thanks to my buddy Benny for being here in this video. You guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. I'm always loving having him here in these videos, and we're going to be talking about Ghost Rider very soon, starring Nicolas Cage. We're going to be doing the first and second Ghost Rider. But yeah, let me give you my final thoughts on Expendables 3. Like I mentioned, I just feel like they kind of went a weird direction with having the younger cast as a big chunk of this movie, and I know it's really supposed to be about the fact that they weren't able to do it. You got to pull out the old dogs and have them go, and then there's this big, great action sequence. But man, it just feels like they just kind of wasted too much time on that. One funny element of this film that's either going to be a hit or miss depending on who you are is Antonio Banderas' character. He plays like this badass parkour kind of guy who has this kind of shitty history with the fact that his team before had all died and he was the only one who survived. And now he wants to be a part of another team. He wants to find purpose. And once they allow him onto the team, he just does not shut up. He's a chatterbox, and if you give him even a moment to start talking to you about something, he will just ramble and just talk your ear off. And I found that to be pretty funny. I found Antonio Banderas to be this annoying, kind of funny character throughout the film. But I can imagine that some people may watch this movie and think that he's just flat out annoying. So I am curious to hear what you guys have to say about his character down below. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this movie. I feel like it is the weaker of the three films personally. I think similar to the first two though, it's not really about the narrative, it's mainly about the character moments and the characters overall. And I think the fact that majority of the cast that you're there to see doesn't have majority of the screen time, or if they do, it doesn't feel like it is. They just spent way too much time, in my opinion, with the younger squad, and I just feel like it kind of took away from what you really enjoyed about the first two films. But that's not to say that there isn't some badass action with our original heroes. There's definitely some great one-liners and some great badass action moments. There's also a really just over-the-top use of CG explosions in this film, and I talked about that a little bit for the first and second film as well. But I think that because this film has a bit of a bigger scale in the third act, I feel like they kind of went a little bit over the top with some of the CG explosions. It's not a huge negative, but it's definitely something that's noticeable and at least worth mentioning. So yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about this movie. Expendables 3 is a fun action movie with some great actors in the film. I don't think it's as good as the first two. I think the second one is my favorite of the three, but I've had a lot of fun talking about this series. I think if you're a fan of 80s and 90s action movies and 80s and 90s action heroes, it's definitely worth checking out if you have not already checked it out. I think that you'll have a good fun with it. However, these films are not for everybody, so if what I'm saying to you or the cast doesn't excite you, or the idea of this very machismo heavy film franchise about a bunch of old timers kicking ass doesn't really excite you, then you may not be too into it when you're watching it. But I would even still say it's worth watching. I had a great time revisiting this series, and I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. So hit that like button down below if you guys enjoyed the video. It helps the channel out. Also, leave some comments down below. What did you think of this movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. As usual, hit that subscribe button if you guys want to see more videos. Also, if you guys could, it would really help the channel out if you could hit the little bell icon, the little notification button, and enable it to get notifications when my videos are going up so you guys can keep up to date with everything that I'm uploading. I got way more content coming and a lot more collabs coming as well. So as usual, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.